Alright everybody, this is Brian. I'm going to do my best to try to walk you guys through what I did to register my Sprint 2 in the experimental amateur build category. So there she is. Haven't even done the first test hop yet. So I laid out all the paperwork. Don't mind the ear coop. One of my other projects. So first of all, I would get the manuals because Quicksilver did an amazing job with the manuals. I'll have to say they really put a lot of effort into these. When I compare the information that's in these manuals to some of the manuals I work, good example right here, to some of the other manuals I work through, these manuals are actually really good. So first thing I would recommend is to purchase the step-by-step certification guide that the EAA puts out. You purchase the package from Aircraft Spruce. It comes with a kit that includes a lot of the decals. It runs step-by-step on what you need to do to walk through the process. Has little check marks, tells you exactly what to do step-by-step, which is invaluable. So I found this to be probably one of the major keys to my success here. So one of the first things I did, per the step checklist here, is I needed to register my aircraft. And I'll pause for just a second and let you know that as soon as you register your aircraft with the FAA, that's how your local tax authority knows that you have an airplane and they're gonna send you a tax bill. One of the ways I've gotten around this is I've sent them a picture of the Quicksilver back when it was disassembled and said, this is not a flyable aircraft, it's disassembled, it's a kit, and they haven't taxed me yet. So I expect that next year. So basically you fill out your 8050-1 registration application. Because Quicksilver is no longer in business, I put together this email and basically, this letter, and basically just described how, look, the company's not in business anymore. They are being supported by AirTech. I don't have a way to provide a bill of sale for the purchase of the kit that I own. I'm requesting that this letter serve as means to obtain a registration for my aircraft kit. I sent that in with the 8050-88, which is the affidavit for ownership of an amateur build aircraft. I had it notarized, and the FAA sent me my registration. So, check. Next thing I did is I was looking as to whether I would register this into the experimental light sport or ELSA category or the experimental amateur build category. And I've done a kit before in the amateur build category and I liked that process. So this is something that the FAA puts out, and if you search revised listing of amateur build aircraft kits, you'll find it. In here are all the Quicksilver models. And I'll tell you that one of the things that my DAR got caught up on is he said, oh, this says 9/30/2012, yet when you look at your assembly manual, the revision date is 12/16/92. So he had an issue with that, and thankfully I got Beaver on the phone, and Beaver said, you know, you really need to pay attention to what the header of that column says. And when you look at the header of the column, it's basically in 2012, that's when it was found to be compliant. So that doesn't mean that any kits after 2012 are good. It means that all kits ever produced of the MXII Sprint after 2012 are produced before 2012, but after 2012 they were found to be compliant. So those are all good. So one of the things that says packing list. So the packing list for those cardboard kits, if you've ever seen a Quicksilver kit, it came with a whole bunch of cardboard pieces that had all of the bits and pieces of the kit shrink wrapped to the cardboard. Obviously no one's got those anymore. So no one really knows if they had that Rev C because those were long since thrown away. So this was good to validate that I could put the Quicksilver in the experimental amateur build category. So talking to my DAR, he wanted to see a few things. He wanted to see fuel flow test results. And I can tell you that the fuel flow testing on the Rotax 503 is more about pressure than it is gallons per hour. So I found that if the gallons per hour was between 2.9 and 7.2, which you'll find in the Rotax manual, then you're getting proper flow. So, sorry, I probably should have hit this one first. So this eligibility statement ties to the revised listing of the amateur build aircraft kit. So the eligibility statement basically says that the aircraft is eligible for the amateur build category based on this list. Also had to be notarized. Next, I had to do a program letter. Program letter is really basic, and I can tell you all these forms are in that kit. If they're not, they're easily found on the internet. So I filled out the form, put my DAR's information on here, basically stated that I comply with these items, and I won't be doing aerobatics. I had to do a condition inspection, which is like if you're familiar with these, or it's like an annual inspection where you inspect the aircraft, make sure it's good. So I printed out this form, but this form is actually going to be online. And here's where I had a stumbling block. With the 8130-6, which is your application for basically a special airworthiness certificate, these are all online now. And I brought up I had an iPad Pro that I brought out to the hangar. When my DAR said it was online, I'm like, okay, let me bust out my iPad Pro and we'll just go to the site. Well, it kept giving me error messages. I looked a little deeper, and you have to use either Internet Explorer version 11 or later, or you have to use Chrome. So home I went to go dig out my Microsoft PC and use Internet Explorer. So make sure you're using the right browser to access if you type in FAA, Alpha, was it Airworthiness? Yeah, Alpha Whiskey Charlie, like Airworthiness Certificate, AWC, you'll find the website for this. You have to register for the website. Then you have to put your information in here. Then you have to select your DAR from a list, and then you delegate the inspection to your DAR. Once he gets it, then he's going to make sure that, sorry, skipped a step. Once you get all the stuff in, then you start uploading all of your previous documents that you had here. And he's going to tell you which documents need to be in there. So it's just a matter of scanning it, and if you haven't done so before, you can scan documents with an iPhone. If you go into the notes section of your iPhone, hit the camera icon and hit scan. It does a beautiful job of scanning documents into PDF. So scan all your documents in with your application for airworthiness certificate. Keep in good contact with your DAR. And your DAR, make sure all your documents are out here. He comes out, inspects. You put an entry into your logbook that states you certify this aircraft's inspected in accordance with the scope and detail of Appendix D to Part 43. You'll find that statement online easily. I put together a builder's log. There's no requirement for what has to be in a builder's log. I put together a bunch of pictures of different views. And honestly, this is when I took the airplane apart at my grandfather's house and transported it back. So I had some pictures. Some of it's just pictures of the aircraft in different states. That's when I did I took the band brakes off. So I put together this pseudo builder's log. You know what my DAR said? You don't need that because you're an A&P. So if you're going to do I guess I back up just for a second. So if you're building an aircraft and calling this, hey, I built this kit, then you have the ability to become a repairman which gives you the ability to do the annual condition inspections. So if you're going down that road and you want the ability to do your own annual condition inspections, you need to do the builder's log. Make sure you're in some of the photos, is key. All right, so that's all together. The DAR's inspected the aircraft. You know what? Let's go look at the airplane. So there's a few things you have to do label-wise, and I tell you, a little Walmart label maker goes a long way. I had to label all of the controls, so I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but this says throttle, forward's open. I had to put the passenger warning sticker up here, which comes with that EAA kit. I had to put the registration number. I had to label the gauges. Now the Aviasport TAC, which I love by the way, is made for the 503 and it comes labeled with all the range markings. The airspeed indicator, I used colored tape, kind of looks like electrical tape. You can buy it on Amazon or Walmart. I just put colored tape on there to do the range markings and it worked out quite well. I had to label the fuel type, which you can kind of see up there. I had to label the range markings on my CHT and EGT, and all those are in the manual. I had to label the oil tank because I have oil injection, what type of oil should be in there. I believe that's about it. I can't think of anything else I had to label. Let's talk about the registration number for a second. So I went to a local graphics company. I told them what size of registration needed, and they basically printed them out in vinyl stickers. You stick them on there, easy peasy. All right, so with all that done, check out my spinner. So with all that done, and with the DAR happy with my inspection, with all the documents uploaded, then he had his FAA supervisor look over the paperwork, and then he printed out my special airworthiness certificate and signed it, and that was it. So, okay, not quite it actually. So the next step is that you go into something called the Phase 1 flight test program. Because this is not a certified airframe, nor is it a certified engine, you have to fly off 40 hours. And the 40 hours have to be solo. You have to tell them where you're gonna fly it. For me, I said, I don't know, 5 nautical miles around the local grass airstrip where I'm at. And that was it. So I got 40 hours to fly off, and then I can carry passengers, and that restriction comes off. You basically make an entry in your logbook that states that you've completed Phase 1 flight testing, and you go about your business. One thing I forgot to mention is there's a data plate. There's my data plate. There was an existing rivet back here. I drilled one more hole. I took the data plate that came in that kit and to an engraver, to a laser engraver, and they did my engraving, stuck that bad boy on there. According to the the Quicksilver manual, they actually put it on the cowling of the engine, but I'm kind of old school. I wanted it where I normally see them. And that's it. So I hope this is helpful to someone. Looks like I kept this about 15 minutes. So enjoy.